My name is Jane Braud, spelled B-R-A-U-D, and I am Director of Planning, Zoning, Grant Management, and Director of the Main Street Program. I work for the City of New Iberia, so all of those offices are under the umbrella of the city, and I have been employed with the city for 27 years. Well, I've always known, in my heart that I love history, and I love, the fact that historic buildings still exist, even though they're covered. My love for preservation actually increased when I came to work for the city, because that's when I really got involved with watching the facades, like our 70s facades, which we had in downtown New Iberia, because the older buildings wanted to look more like malls, in hopes that people would come back to shop downtown. And when I came to work for the city, downtown was actually in pretty sad shape. I have a PowerPoint presentation that I started because I'm a photographer as well. And so I started documenting my time on Main Street and each building, one at a time, that took part in the revitalization and the facade grant, as it was called back then, through Louisiana State Main Street program. And one by one, the fronts of the buildings came off and revealed that beautiful history behind them. And I'm so thankful that I started documenting that experience in 1993. Now I can look at a whole street and compare it to what it looked like then and see the remarkable changes that have taken place. I put together a PowerPoint presentation. I love going to an organization like the Optimus Aquinas, or the Chamber has our leadership group of young professionals every year. And so the young people have never seen how the buildings looked originally. So just to see in their eyes, what it looked like then and how it looks now makes me really proud. Well, I actually started out at UL in business administration. And then my path took me in a different direction. I actually was employed by a realtor, worked in real estate for about 9 years, and then actually worked for an architect who was part-time city planner and had an office downtown in a historic building. And so that's really where my interest began, because he was a big influence in my life and in my work path as well. And he actually closed his business, came to work for the city full-time, and the mayor then offered me a job as his assistant. In 1997, I was offered the job as planning director, zoning director, and Main Street program director. So I got my start in preservation with some strong influence. As far as education too, I was very excited to participate in Main Street certification at the National Trust. Back then, it was a 2-year course, and you had to complete all 4 components 2 years in a row. And that was a huge part of my education in Main Street era. I so enjoyed it and learned so much from it, and hope that anyone would take the opportunity to do so, because it's not just about preservation, although it's a big part. It's design, organization, promotion, economic development. It's all those combined into one. Well, I've got a number of hats on my desk, and so depending on what's happening during the day, one hat goes on, one comes off. Because as planning and zoning director, then that takes me down another path. And Main Street program, always busy with special events and partnering with organizations, and that's so important. You know, we do have a strong partnership with the Chamber and tourism and all of those folks who are already doing a great job. So, but grant writing right now is primary for me. The challenges are actually working with some of the business owners, building owners, and having them share your vision about the possibilities of what their building could be. When I started with the program, every upper story, second floor, downtown was a storage unit, boxes and, you know, old pieces of furniture and just trash, no second story development. I actually went to New Orleans, my husband and I, and toured the warehouse district. When I came back, I put together a book, and that helped me to, when I met with the developers and the business owners, to say, your second story could look like this. You know, what do you need to do to get it there? And so we worked with the building owners, and I'm proud to say we have a lot of folks living downtown right now. The most rewarding part has been to actually see revitalization successes. And as I said earlier, I'm a photographer, so I photograph those changes through the time. But then to just sit there in my office and, you know, and kind of flip through that PowerPoint and say, you know, this is a big accomplishment. And I can't take all the credit for it because it's the investors, it's, you know, the building owners. I mean, everybody gets involved, the city. But, you know, I see myself as a cheerleader. So I can bring out the cheer, kind of get people motivated and looking at the possibilities. And once that, you know, that smile, that face lifting comes about when you're talking to somebody, that's, you know, it's just huge. My advice would be to contact someone in the field and shadow them. Sit down, maybe, you know, offer to do some small tasks. Share with them what you see for your future. And, you know, I know anybody in the field is always willing to share, you know, the success, the failures, the guidance. So that would be the first thing I would suggest. And when I started visiting with building owners about using second story spaces for residential use, one building in mind was the Guggenheim. It's located on Iberia and Main Street. Void of a balcony. In the 1800s picture of the building, it had a wraparound balcony at that time, but had no balcony at this time in 1993. So I met with the building owner and showed him the pages from New Orleans Warehouse District, and he got excited about it. He really got pumped. He had just bought the building and said, okay, what do I have to do to put the balcony back? And then he came to me a couple of days later. He said, I can't do it. And I said, why? He said, because there's a law that says I can't put a balcony back on a building. So we started researching and come to find out, actually, it was a city ordinance. We thought it was a state or some other rule. But it was a city ordinance because there was a fire in downtown years and years ago. And downtown was a fire district, and so rules were made for back then. Well, needless to say, we put a committee together of professionals, structural engineers, and architects, and we revised that ordinance so that anyone who owns a building downtown can restore it if it previously had a balcony, and, you know, proof is in the photographs that were taken back then. So that was the first success story and led to many thereafter. One comes to mind, actually, and it was a loss by fire. There's a 3-story Masonic lodge just about a half a block from here on the corner that was built in the late 1800s. It was on the National Register, and we don't know how the fire started, but it destroyed the entire building. And it just, people were standing, including myself, just standing there with tears in our eyes, watching this loss take place, because a 3-story building, in a town our size is a big chunk out of downtown. So that loss was terrible. In the end, though, the building owner, the Masons, sold the building to an attorney who turned around and donated the space to the city. And right at this time, we are building a park in memory of George Rodrigue, who's a famous artist, the painter of the Blue Dog, who was from New Iberia. And so that space is going to be a park in his memory. Well, of course, for downtown small businesses, it's been a struggle. We were very fortunate that no one closed. There were 5 new businesses that opened, and our sales tax revenue stayed just about the same. And as far as work, I continued to work. We wrote grants and the downtown master plan. And of course, I work for a dynamic leader. The Mayor Freddie DeCourt, is so energized. He's like the Energizer Bunny, and he's got plans and ideas. And so during this whole shutdown, we put our heads together. We met, we talked, we brainstormed, and came up with some really cool ideas. And put it all together in the downtown master plan. And then that master plan actually branched out into other parts of the city. So now we have a whole community master plan. And that can be seen on youriberianow.com. Well, relative to the Main Street program, I can't say enough about the staff, Ray Scriber, the state coordinator, and Susanna. They furnish all of the Main Street programs in Louisiana, tons of information, grants and webinars, and we get together 4 times a year, quarterly meetings. Used to be in different parts of the state, now it's Zoom. But there's a wealth of information that comes from his office, from the Lieutenant Governor's office, online. Resources and tools just through Small Business Association, USDA. There are a number of projects and websites that can be tapped into.